testimonials inside. Yes, this is no. Leave the high tech tabs on. Here we go. Here we go. Are we live? We are.
All right. So, welcome to the EIR Academy, guys. This is really awesome. My name's Josh. I'm the host. I'm a fellow entrepreneur here in the incubator. And we created this program through our PR firm because I needed desperately a place to hang out with other entrepreneurs, go side by side and share war stories, share things of like, here's what's really working well. Here's where I'm completely screwing up and I could use some help. And what I found is entrepreneurship could be a super lonely game while you're building your stuff. So we created this community, this academy, so we can learn together. So EIR stands for Entrepreneur in Residence. It's a silly position that I had when I worked at a VC group. And essentially the goal and the vision of this is to create a community of entrepreneurs working together, learning together, and then passing on this wisdom and knowledge to my daughter and to future generations so they don't have to screw up as much as I did in business. All right. So what I want to do is in this room, I love you guys. This is so cool. How many of you guys have ever bombed a business really bad, like failed a business, like really, really bad? Okay, cool. That guy had two hands up. All right, good job, Josh. Me too. I've had a lot of failures. What would you say, just quick audience questions, like what would you say was something that led to one of your biggest failures? Who's brave enough to share? Okay, so Chris Marshall, before you walk out. Oh, you're okay. Chris, what was one of the things that led to, like that you could attribute to one of your major failures? Maybe like less than a minute.
I purchased a martial arts school in Missouri from the master of the organization that I trained underneath for a few years, and he was still very active. So was a lot of the other instructors that came along with him, and I did not set proper expectations with what the roles and responsibilities would be in that relationship as the new business owner that was still training underneath that guy, and it led to some bad relationships.
Has anybody here had a relationship that didn't have in business that didn't have proper expectations, roles, responsibilities? Oh, cool. All right, me too. When it comes to a failed business or a failed business venture, who else could share maybe something that they learned along the way, and what did you attribute to? You mind sharing something? All right, Tim.
Tim Ashcraft. I just recognize that you have to know your competitor. You have to realize, where am I at? I ran a feed store garden center in Auburndale, Florida, and it was wonderful. It made my family some cash, but then guess who moved into town? Walmart. And then they were buying and selling their 6 packs of tomato plants for less than I could buy them for. So it was a tough road for us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Mr. Chris. This is the newest guy on our team who's helping me with the organization because I suck at it. Here you go, Chris.
Hey, thanks everybody. My name's Chris. I run 2 separate companies, but the biggest issue that I've had in business is I love people. So I really, really care about people. And then when I see somebody that has like an amazing passion, like let's say you guys are incredible, I want to do anything and everything for you guys. What happened to me in business twice already was I'm doing anything and everything for you guys, and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm like, what happened? Like, so I guess trusting in the wrong people, or I think when it came to the same thing, was it Chris? Chris also, like trusting into the wrong people and not really setting the expectations of what I want to do in longevity for a company. So
Yeah.
All right. Wow, this is good. I'm going to move this chair because I'm going to trip on it. Here you go, Paul.
My first venture into real estate investing, I was a buddy of mine and his brother were doing it. They made $60,000 profit on one house, $90,000 on another. I came in and wound up losing like $175,000. Not all my money, but borrowed money, put me in a bad financial spot. But paying attention to market timing was important. So I originally bought the house. It was May of 2016. And those in real estate know that was the bubble bursting after that summer. And like the saying says, it always takes you twice as long and costs you twice as much. and our real estate investor can tell us that.
All right, we're going to do one more. And then when we dive into the EIR Academy, let me give you a little, set the stage for what it's going to look like. I'm going to try to do as little talking as possible. I'm just really good at asking questions because I'm curious and my memory is so short. So I'm going to ask these guys who are really smart a lot of questions. I want you guys to think of whatever questions you have. Today, we're going to be talking about marketing, sales, influencing, like influencer marketing, and innovation. So if you have questions, even if it pertains to you, raise your hand. I take a lot of notes. I'll come to you and give you the mic just for a second, or Chris will. Keep your questions to 30 seconds or below, and so they could dive in and share that. If you want to engage with them longer, afterwards you'll be able to have some time. So last thing that you learned, Mr. Jonah.
Yeah, hey, I'm Jonas. So I would think wishful thinking was really the worst thing that I did in the early 20s. I had 2 business partners. We did e-commercial, and there were so many red flags, and we buried so much money. And in the end, or years after it, I realized, okay, I could have seen all these red flags, but I was not willing to be honest to myself and just living kind of in a dream world. Oh, this is going to work out and that. So being 100% honest about what's going on and how to solve it. Yeah.
There's this little thing right here. It's called our gut, right? Like a lot of times we have a gut instinct and we ignore it because we see some dollar bills or potential dollar bills. And I had a billionaire once tell me, trust your gut, no matter what, trust your gut, because your gut comes from experiences and things that you learned even when you were little. So that's really good. And thank you all for sharing. This is what we need more of, because a lot of people will write a book on here's how I was super successful. But very few people in the middle of a failure will say, hey, here's how I'm failing. Here's how I failed. And let's share that. So that's the purpose and mission of this. So today we have some people that have traveled here, and one guy just drove right around the block. But we had 2 guys who drove out of town to be here. You did great. You did really good getting here. But I just want to introduce them. They're friends of mine, and introduce them. And then kind of share their story. So if you do have questions as we're going, raise your hand. I'll acknowledge you. And then when it's perfect timing, I'll bring the mic to you, or Chris will bring the mic to you. Does that sound good, everybody? Ready, rock and roll? All right. So today we're going to be talking about marketing, influencer marketing, social media marketing, and sales, and how they kind of connect. So with us, let me introduce our first guest. This is Charlie. He's my friend. He's from Volusia County. And he's going to tell you, why don't you take 2-3 minutes, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
This one works. The Volusia County thing is well, it's not so inside. Right? So we work with clients across the country, and when people say, where are you from? I don't say Daytona Beach. Daytona Beach carries a certain, I've been to Daytona Beach when I was 18 and partied my butt off, right? So anyway, so I say Volusia County just because, I don't actually live in Daytona Beach, but, close enough that's what I can associate with. So Charlie Van Derven, my business is Social Advisors. It's about 10 years old. It'll be 10 years old in October. So that's a cool, exciting milestone. It's been up, it's been down, it's been sideways, it's been in all kinds of places. Today, it is probably as simple as it's ever been. Our business model is basically we resell software and we service the hell out of our clients. That's it, right? So if there's a white label opportunity and the software makes sense for the market that we're in, we white label it, we resell it into financial services is our main focus. So Primerica, and I saw a CFP in here earlier, so know your market well. So right now, we really focus a lot on content development, marketing automation, all on a prospecting side. So we're helping financial advisors build their businesses. We do that through content development, CRM management, digital advertising, a lot of LinkedIn work for professional connections. And then the crux of it all is when you build a network, right, and you're influencer marketing, or I kind of prefer the term, subject matter expert or thought leader, I think is better than influencer. When you become that to a large network of people, you've got to be able to measure that network. right? So if you can effectively do that through lead scoring, you can effectively do that through event promotion, who's showing up for your events. And so we help financial advisors run from beginning to end. We'll call it influencer or thought leader type marketing programs.
All right. Now this.
All right, this is on. Okay, cool. Hey, I'm learning this stuff, man. I have a tech-ish firm, and I don't know how to use tech. All right, so Scott's been a friend of mine for a really long time. We met in Orlando. He drove here from Orlando today to share what he's got going on. He's got two businesses that he runs. So I want you to kind of share both of them and how they connect with each other. Okay.
Yeah. So Scott Sidler, my companies are Austin Historical, which is a 40-person historic window and door restoration company, which is a really weird niche. But we basically go to old houses, old commercial buildings, institutional buildings, and we restore the historic wood and steel windows and everything that goes with it. So that's shutters, screens, storm windows, trim, all that stuff. So it's all very specialty contractor, self-performing. We're all throughout the Southeast. We're about 13 years old now. And I started that just from buying an old house with my wife, and we were trying to fix stuff up, and I was always handy. My dad was a contractor, grandfather was a painter, and I couldn't find any contractors willing to work on old houses because of lead paint and asbestos and everything like that. And I stupidly was not afraid of that. So I was like, hey, I can fix this up, and realized that when the neighbors' friends started asking for help, I was starting to charge them. I was like, maybe this is a business, and I really enjoyed that. So I have a degree in musical theater, which doesn't tie into this at all. But I was a musical theater, like off Broadway and stuff, performer and touring acts. And when I got married and had kids, I was like, I don't really feel like going on a bus and truck tour anymore. So I'm going to sit down and start my own company. So started that. And then a few years after that, I got tired of answering the same question in email from clients all the time. And so I just started blogging about it. People wanted to know about old houses. I knew about it. So I started writing content on a blog using iWeb, of all things, back in the day to publish my blog, which was awful. But I started doing content marketing. And then about 2 years after that, I carved it off as a separate business. So that's the other business, which is Austin Enterprises Group. So we have a few websites, and it's all about content creation, content marketing, and e-commerce. We started developing our own products, which I found that I was like, I really am good at and enjoy the product development process, much like you guys are going through. It's a pain sometimes, but it's also really satisfying once you get it there. And it's about getting word out to people. So the two businesses kind of work together well, that I get a lot of leads from one, and the people who are like, I can't afford to hire you, is like, that's all right. You can go over here, get books, get the supplies you need to do it yourself. And one business buys supplies from the other. And so I've got two businesses that are really synergistically connected. And it's fun like that. And so my goal is to keep building off of that and building different businesses that plug into those and are kind of like connected to them. And that's for me an entrepreneurial mindset of liking to do different things and getting bored with one idea. I was like, oh, there's a new fun shiny thing I can work on that ties in and still helps this old business, so it doesn't get stale for me. So.
Super cool. So I'm so glad you're here. And Dave and I go way back. We just met in the hallway back here. But he's with a local company that it's a phenomenally successful company, and you might have all bought something from it. So Dave, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Good morning, everybody. My name is David Brady. I'm with a company called Real Truck, and our parent company, Real Truck, is a vertically integrated manufacturer, marketer, and online reseller of parts and accessories for trucks, Jeeps, and off-road vehicles. So our headquarters of a parent company is based in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and our company, which is the e-commerce division of Real Truck, is based right here in Ocala. So when the company started out, over 30 years ago, it was obviously much smaller, and it was accumulating a lot of smaller brands. And over time, it accumulated 28 different brands, from different companies that it acquired. Our original CEO, when he started the company, just started buying all these different brands, different tonneau cover companies, and different running board companies and that kind of thing. And he was tremendously successful, and it just over time had accumulated all these different brands. And then recently, it became very successful, growing like crazy. But all these different brands and all these different smaller brands and teams and organizations had never really been successfully integrated over time into really one seamless organization. And so now we're really focused on integrating all of these different brands into, looking at where there's synergies and getting similar systems and integrating teams across the organization and things like that, and using a singular brand focus. So now we're really trying to make Real Truck our focus, to get Real Truck to be a household name out there like Nike and WeatherTech. So instead of having 28 brands that we're trying to focus and get out there in the marketplace and get people familiar with, we want people to get to know Real Truck, right? Because when I started getting familiar with the company and they started talking to me about an opportunity, I hadn't heard of Real Truck, especially being based in Ann Arbor and that kind of thing. But once I got to know about the company, and the brands that we sell actually are like the top recognized, or the top reputation of the top performing brands in the categories that we compete in. Tonneau covers, running boards, not only design, make, manufacture, but they are, again, the top recognized and the top selling brands in those categories. So we really want to focus, though, on getting that name recognition out there. So we're really doing a lot more too now to consolidate the focus of our marketing and our strategy on spreading it out across all these different brands and getting more laser focused on getting people familiar with Real Truck. So anyway, I head up our sales and service operations. I've been with the company for about 4 years now. I've been in the industry, basically responsible for managing different sales and service teams for about 30 years, most recently with Time Inc. Media before I joined Real Truck. So happy to be here, and good to see you.
All right, everybody, let's give a round of applause. Thank you to our guests for coming in. And this is a time where I just do a quick pause, and none of this would be possible. And the reason we left up the screen, none of this would be possible without the CEP buying into this vision. All right, so the CEP is great. Tyler has been here helping me gather all my crazy thoughts and helping me stay focused and organized. And Heather and Jessica and Sherry Ed and the team has been really great about encouraging this and helping move this along. So really big thank you for them. And for Chris, my tech guy, who teaches me how to turn on a microphone and who does these slides. And he runs a tech firm out of this incubator that specializes in helping real estate investors not do what Paul did and lose a lot of money. So, special thanks to Chris, and for Mr. Santiago, Chris Santiago, for helping put this together. Okay, now we could turn this off so these guys can now see the audience. All right, so we're going to be having a unique conversation today: sales, marketing, influencer, thought leadership, and kind of the topic. So if you do have questions, just raise your hand. I'll acknowledge it, and then we're going to dive in. But I want to kind of dive into it's unique how we're set up. So we have some thought leadership, we have some content creation, and then we have sales. And it seems like, in the world of sales and marketing, sometimes there's a chasm in between them two. So let's bring the microphone down here to Charlie for a second. You help financial advisors create content, create brand awareness that turns into a sale, right? So in the components, what would you say are the certain things that must happen from someone who's scrolling on TikTok or LinkedIn to go from that to a sale? What are some of the components that you find needs to happen? I know that's a big question, but what are some of the things that you see?
The whole system really breaks down into 3 steps, I would say. Right. So, and you've got to start with an awareness of who it is that you're trying to attract to your business, whether that's a service related business or products like Real Truck, understanding your audience and who it is you're bringing to the table, if you will. In a world of developing thought leadership and subject matter expertise, and with social media making it so easy to build an audience, and financial professionals, LinkedIn is great. Certainly, there's other purposes. There's purposes for the other platforms in that service industry. But LinkedIn kind of rules what we do just based on who we serve. Building that community is the first step. Once you understand who it is you're trying to attract to the business, right? I highly recommend going especially in a service-based business, going as niche as you possibly can. In a very competitive marketplace like financial services, just as an FYI, there's like 700,000 financial advisors in the country. 685, I think, is precisely the number, something like that. Not all practicing, of course, but it's a competitive landscape. The more you niche in a service-based business like that, the more you remove the competition, and secondarily, you start to speak the language of the people that you're trying to do business with. So that you identify yourself as a subject matter expert in their space. You've got to nurture a big audience, and that's where content marketing comes in, right? I mean, meeting somebody one time does not create a client. Being in front of somebody for 5 years does. Like, the consistency of content marketing is so important across social platforms. Again, for our world, that's LinkedIn more than anywhere else. Email plays into that as well. In order to build business out of that network or audience that you're creating, people are going to come to you for sure when they've got a need and they have trust in you. You have to understand, if you're influencing 5,000 people across email or social media, or heck, 100,000 people, you've got to be able to measure that audience. And so I kind of said it quickly in the introduction. The two things that we find are really, really effective in measuring an audience are event promotions. So if you're sending out, an email to 5,000 people to promote your in-person event, or or a webinar or something like that, if 40 people register and 18 people show up, those are your prospects. That's your sales opportunity, right? By relying on that on the back end, you don't have to be selling all the time. You can be educating, and that's what creates a subject matter expert, right? Educate people, don't sell to people. Know that on the back end of your system, you've got a webinar, or maybe you've got a CRM that has lead scoring capability that allows you to kind of identify who in that big network is interacting with your marketing assets. Those pills are kicking in, by the way. I've got dry mouth a little bit. But having some kind of conversion event on the back end of your system is the most important component for the sales that are developed out of your marketing.
So building the attention, gaining the trust, and then creating an action and measuring that. Now to Scott. Thank you for sharing, Charlie. Scott, I've seen some of your videos. You've shared them with me. You create these, you're in construction, right? You fix windows, and you restore old houses and old windows and such, and you do a great job. Some of your videos are fun, educational, and you've had some things that have gone, viral, and you've done that. How in the world does that tie into the old industry of construction? Like, how did you have that thought to create fun videos of you dancing, singing, and such like that, to turning into a very successful construction company? Like, how did those two connect where you had that idea?
I mean, at first it was like, well, I have to do like what normal marketing or sales is. And then I realized, like, there's a million people doing that. So what's unique about me? And it's like, I'm probably the only professional ballet dancer that owns a construction company. So who else is creating that kind of content? Nobody. So maybe not everybody's interested in it, but the people who look at it are like, that's freaking funny. Okay. And then if I looked at it where, like you had mentioned, the trust, I was like, if you go, well, this guy's got, he comes from musical theater or whatever, but then we see, he was like, okay, this is a legitimate company. It's been around for a long time. It was harder at the first part of it because you're like, I don't know, you're just chucking a truck. Who knows if you're going to do the job or not? But after you go, I've got a bunch of people in here. We've got good reviews. We've got a good experience and stuff. It's easy to kind of make light of it and be like, this is not that serious. I mean, we restore windows. Like, I'm just scraping the paint on there. But then when you put on like Etta James At Last, and you see like the hardware restored, and people are like, okay, that's kind of funny, because it's arduous work, and it doesn't have to be that ugly. You don't have to show them the Well, like we were talking for Destiny's promotion, it was like the dirty laundry is like, you don't have to air your dirty laundry. Like you can make it look a little funny. You can be stupid about it. You can do something that'll make somebody laugh, and you can make if you can make them laugh and they learn something from it, then they're going to come back because they're like, I'm here for the entertainment, but I'm also getting a little bit of education on it. And for me, the sale came usually much later, right? They're going to come back for the laughs and the education. And then I just had somebody message me yesterday. They went, I got 3 suggestions for this. I don't trust any of that. And I'm just asking you, and this was on an Instagram DM, and you tell me what I should get. And then I said, well, it should be this. You should do this product. And they said, do you sell anything like that? And because they wanted to buy from me. Awesome.
Are all those for Charlie? He had one of these pills earlier.
And so, they were asking, because I'd entertained them and given them good information for free on social media or on the blog or things like that, that they were like, I want to buy from you. If I'm going to buy this, if you say that's the right product, I trust you. And I also want to buy from you because you've been there for me and you haven't been asking for the sale. But if I've got a new product, I'm out there in front of them going, I use this. This is the product. Zig Ziglar always say that. It's like, I'm doing you a disservice if I'm not pushing you to buy this. If I think this will make your life better, if I think this will solve your problem, I'm doing you a disservice if I don't say you really need to buy this. And so when those products come up, I'll push on it. But most of the time, it's the Gary Vaynerchuk jab, 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 right hook. Like the jabs are just the fun content to keep you coming back and laughing. And then I'll hit you with the right hook when it's a good product or a good sale that I think you should be closing on.
So before we dive into the sales aspect, so once the phone rings and once the order comes through and there's an opportunity for a sale or an upsale or a partnership sale or distribution sale, so we want to dig into that. Get the mic back to Scott still. One more time. Scott, you've gotten so good at creating content that is engaging, that converts to a sale. Other people have showed up and say, here's a bucket of money, create stuff for us, right? As a paid influencer and such like that. When that first one came across, like describe what that first one looked like. And if you're willing to, like maybe one of the most successful ones that you've, maybe accomplished if you're allowed to.
Yeah. So we do, I get a lot of, I do a lot of brand work, like certain brands like Minwax or Cabot or a lot of the Sherwin-Williams brands will come and say, can you create some content for us this year? Say, sure, what do you want to do? And honestly, there are a lot of creators that are like, oh, I just want to get a brand to, sponsor me and they'll pay you good money. And it's good money, but it's not great money. And you really are working not for yourself, but for that brand. So when that kind of stuff happens, I have found that the brands, or if you're one of those businesses that's looking to be like, I want to get an influencer to promote my product, like for you guys, it's like, okay, if I could get somebody who's out there as an influencer to show my product and use my product, when you come to that person and say, here's how I want you to do it, that's usually when my stuff flops. When I'll be like, I got this awesome idea. Here's what I want to do. Because I know my audience. I know what's going to hit. They don't know my audience. And then when they're like, no, we don't like that. Do it this way. I was like, okay. And usually I'll say most of my brand stuff is crap. It doesn't do well. Like in terms of its reach and influence, it gets the least reach because I'm saying like, you want me to present your stuff in this way. And I get it. That's your brand image that you want. But if you would let me market to my audience in the way that they respond, your stuff would do great, but they don't want to hear that. They want it. Well, this is how we're positioned out there. And they're big companies, right? It's like Minwax. Like this is how they were like, you can't use our product that way. I was like, but I've been using your product like this for 20 years. This is what it does. Everybody uses your product this way. Well, that's not what's on the can. Like, you got to I feel like if you have a product or a service, go get the influencer and let them speak to their audience and just trust them. I know you're giving them money and a lot of trust, but you got to trust them. If they're generating a big following, they know what they're doing for their audience. And if you're trying to be like, I want you to talk to my audience, they won't talk to your audience. You need to go through them to talk to their audience. If that's who you want buying your product.
Yeah, thank you. So Dave, these things happen. You run the sales organization. So marketing happens over here and you guys are over here. And, I know that there's a great conversation that happens at Real Truck because you guys are absolutely crushing it. But on the sales side of stuff, when you see marketing and you say, what are things that, because you're the guy who collects the money at the end, right? What have you seen work really well and maybe not so good in marketing?
Well, I'd say a couple of things that both Scott and Charlie mentioned too that has been a shift for us, and it seems to be working really effectively. Is that what? And I mentioned it to you, Josh, before we started. It was our website used to be very transactional. It was set up, for our customers that were already pretty knowledgeable about our products. These are truck enthusiasts that already, are pretty educated on what, not even necessarily what we sell, but tonneau covers, wheels, tires. They are already pretty savvy. So they do their shopping, they do their Google searches, and they'd shop around and educate themselves ahead of time. And then they'd go to our website and be prepared to start shopping. So they were pretty far down the funnel already. They'd get to our website, and our website was pretty darn good and effective at capturing those purchases then. But now we've kind of redesigned, repurposed our website to also be prepared to capture people higher up the funnel, at the awareness and generate interest stage. And it's more, a lot of what we're talking about here, where, making blog content available, making content available for customers to capture their interest, educate them, show them lifestyle, videos, and not just go right to products and try to get them, to the cash register, but make it a destination for them to come to. Don't make it a site to just, hey, open your pocketbook and give us your money. But we want it to be a site that they think of for anything and anything they want to learn about trucks, Jeeps, off-road vehicles. So they'll come back and back again and be that resource for them. And we are putting influencer content all over there, professional athletes that we're partnering with, all that kind of stuff. So it's really changed dramatically just over the last 6 months to a year. And that has been effective. And our sales team strategy has also shifted accordingly. And we really have a consultative approach to how we're dealing with those customers. So, these customers are calling or chatting with us while they're on our website, right? We're not calling them. We're not reaching out to them, trying to sell products or push products. We're trying to help them through the process, right? So they're calling us while they're on the website, or they're messaging us through, one of our messaging platforms. And we're just trying to educate them, understand their needs, right? So what are you, how do you use your vehicle? Where do you live? So geography comes into play as far as, how you might use the vehicle, whether you're in a snowy climate or a warm climate. And then you really use a consultative approach to help them understand how our products can help, provide security, provide, other benefits as far as depending on if they're hunting, tailgating, whatever, and then make recommendations to them as far as, what would best meet their needs. So it's really, we've had to adapt and adjust based on how our marketing tactics have also shifted over time.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys sharing these different aspects of marketing and how people buy online. Because back in the day, I'm dating myself, but like I was there before Amazon, and like if you wanted to get something, you would open the phone book and call a bunch of places, try to shop around for 3 prices, and then you'd go in and buy something, right? But now what do we do when we want to go buy something? How do you guys buy stuff? Like if it's less than $100 and you want to buy something, where's the first place you go?
Google or Amazon.
Google, Amazon, right? Or eBay. Let's just say it's over $1,000 and you need to buy something. How do you, and let's say you could buy it online. Anybody, how do you buy something that's a little bit more expensive, a little bit more complex? How do you go about making the decision to go buy something online? Anybody? Reviews, right? So we're looking for other people who have maybe made some bad mistakes before us, so we don't make $1,000 mistake. And what about, like, anybody here YouTube it and then watch other people describing it, right? So what we're doing is we're like quick sales. We go on Amazon or whatever, and we might buy something, and it's just like super transactional, like we talked about. But now we want to be guided on how to buy stuff, that consultative approach, the influencer who does it every day while dancing, like we want to know, and like with financial advisors, we want to know from people who are doing it. And that's how we're starting to buy. So with that, with financial advisors, there's 700 or 659,000, whatever, but a lot. I'm online on LinkedIn and I'm scrolling like, how would I decide to use this person as a financial advisor? I've got a couple extra dollars in my piggy bank and I've never used a financial advisor before. How would you recommend that person who, that financial advisor grab Josh's attention and convert it? What does that look like?
I don't think it's that's a very transactional question, right? I mean, and I don't specifically for professional services. With the number of people that are, advisors or attorneys or, any professional service, right? You probably are going to go through referral, or that person's already been, in our lives for 2 or 3 years. We got a client in outside of Detroit, and he is everything financial advisor for the automotive industry. Every piece of literature we put together for him, every piece of education we put together for him is about automotive. Automotive is going through a tough time right now. Like all these GM and Ford are downsizing. I think GM just had, like 5,000 employees take a buyout, right? This guy has the opportunity right now, because he's spent 5 years building a big network of people in the automotive industry. His big event that he's putting on the 20th, what date is it now? Anyway, so on the 20th, his big event that's got like 120 registrations for it right now. Things to do if your company is going through downsizing, questions to ask your financial advisor if you're going through downsizing. So it's where, Dave's talking about inbound stuff, right? People coming to Real Truck to take a look at the website, and that's what's triggering sales opportunity. I'm trying to think of the client's name right now, which is terrible. Anyway, our client in Detroit, right? He's been outbound marketing for 5 or 6 or 7 years to build this network of people in the automotive industry, so that when something happens in that industry, like downsizing, he can publicize the heck out of, he's the go-to guy in that moment, right? So it's more about understanding what the audience is going through and speaking to their needs than, you certainly can run ads, and that's helpful for influence and seeing your brand and things along those lines. But it's about understanding that audience, which that's what's going to convert prospects or connections into clients for this particular person.
Awesome. So we have a few questions, and what we're going to do is sprinkle in audience questions. So if you do have a question, you guys just don't want to hear me speak, right? Like I want to hear the questions that you guys have for our guests. So state your name, maybe the name of your business, and what your question is, and if it's specific to one of them, who is it that you want to ask? So Mr. Marshall.
Chris Marshall with Ari. My question is about influencers and kind of affiliate marketing. So I got about 6 questions. I'll ask one at a time. How does a startup that's trying to get inbound leads set up a deal with an affiliate marketer, preferably an influencer on TikTok or something like that's fair for both the influencer, but also the startup knowing that I have a freemium model? How do I compensate that influencer in a fair way?
Scott? Okay, yeah, Scott.
So, most content creators or influencers in whatever their market is are going to take some people, if they're smaller, like micro influencers, if you've got a smaller audience, they may take product. If it is some kind of product, be like, hey, I'll give you this product for free. Would you mind just kind of showing it around and putting on there and putting this link in there? Or it's just going to be a payment depending on what you want them to do. Do you want them to just do a quick TikTok or an Instagram reel or something like that, or a carousel? And the price is going to be based on the complexity. I want a 15-minute YouTube video showing you using my service or product. That's going to be more expensive than, can you create a 60-second TikTok for me and put it out there to your people? And here's the link I want them to click. Affiliate, I will say most influencers I know love affiliate because if they like your product. If they don't know your product or like your product, they just want to be paid and put it out there and be done with it. But if they think like my audience could really use this, then the affiliate option of giving them a portion of the sale, if people convert that, now they're your salesperson. They're going to go out there and push for it if they believe in the product. But if you think maybe if they're lukewarm on it, then it's probably going to be pay them a few $100s to a few $1,000s, depending on the size of their audience and what you want them to do. And they'll put out a post or something for you. But I think the affiliate route is usually what I would recommend. And especially if it's like if you're selling a course or an ebook or something like that. Ebook is so trite, but like something that doesn't cost you anything, then doing a healthy affiliate commission. I've had some where it's like, hey, I'm going to make you an affiliate for my course. It's a $600 course. So I'm going to give you 30% of the sales. That's a good commission for me. I was like, I'm going to go out and push your course if I like it. But if you're like, I'm going to give you 5%, well, I know it doesn't cost you anything to sell a course. So now it just feels to me as the influencer, like you're being kind of greedy. It was like, just get out there. And then once you start getting that critical mass, you won't need the influencers nearly as much for it. So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, really good question, especially because in this room, there's a lot of us startups. Like we're just getting started. We might not have a huge marketing budget, and we're kind of getting started. So we have to be a little bit scrappy in our approach to this. What I found works with influencer marketing is build a group of people that you want to be your influencers and be their influencers. Send them, do customer, whatever the reviews for them. And what's going on out there?
Outside?
Giving them free shout outs on your social media, even if you don't have much of a platform, is a great way to get somebody's attention where you're like, dude, you got to go check out this person. Here's an awesome one. I reposted, or here's something cool that they're doing. You're sharing their stuff. It just opens up the door. Nobody's going to be mad at you. Like, why'd you share that? Like, even if you have 100 followers on your social media, is like the fact that somebody is you're sharing their stuff is an open door where you're not just asking for them. You've provided value to them already.
For sure. All right. We have a question here from Mr. Santiago.
Hey, thanks, guys. It's kind of a broad question, mostly probably for Charlie and Scott. Now, we are not all people who have performed for Broadway, right? So you're used to being in front of the camera and entertaining people. So that's easy for you when it comes to marketing a company. If it's your company, you can probably come up with the ideas. I think a lot of issues that especially new startup companies are having is I have a business to run. So when it comes to like creating content or marketing or self-branding, when the average attention span is 8 seconds, I don't have the time to sit here and I have to operate a business. So how can we, or is there any way that we can go about automating maybe either the marketing part so that when it comes to selling my product, I can do that easier? Or is there somewhere that we should all be going where if we look at like somebody like Destiny, I feel like the main issue is like getting out there and getting the name out there. So something that a startup company can do in terms of automating that process where it doesn't cost a ridiculous amount of money.
It's, yeah, I get it. It's hard for me sometimes to find the times. Like usually it's just the priorities. Like I just got to block out, be like, I got 30 minutes on every Tuesday. There's like, I'm going to start creating some content, something, even if it's dumb. Like I see the things on Instagram all the time. They're like, your next reel is just waiting in your camera roll. Like, and it probably is. If you're just taking some, putting up some stories, it doesn't have to be awesome, life-changing content all the time, but it's just the consistency that you're out there. The algorithms are, I heard somebody describe it like your 80-year-old grandmother who you go to visit every Tuesday for breakfast at 10 a.m. And if you show up at 10:30, they're like, I don't know what to do with you. Like if you're posting same time, same days, and you're being consistent, your followers know, the algorithm knows like, more content for you. It'll get more reach, even if it's not great stuff. So for me, it's setting aside like a set amount of time, like from it depends on the week, but it's like on this day at this time, I'm just generating some content. I'm going to write up some stuff, take some posts and put it out there. And if you're not comfortable being in front of the camera, then just do like on Instagram, which is where I spend a lot of my time, and Facebook too. Just the carousels are converting like crazy now. It used to be reels, but you don't have to be out there doing something crazy and dancing around a construction site. You could just simply post some pictures up there, share some stories, and then be done for the day and be like, whew, and I put some stuff in the can that I've saved that I'm going to post later in the week. So that kind of stuff, the consistency is more important than the the quality of the video or of the picture. If it's good content and it's consistent, it'll convert over time.
Charlie?
The other thing I'd mention is, and Scott said it, is you got a time block for it, right? It is an important part of what you're doing. So sacrificing it for the business is probably hurting both ends. The tools that are coming out right now are so amazing in helping to create content, right? All the AI stuff that's rolling out. OpenAI launched November 30th. We were using it like in full scale for our business and for our clients by, say, January 15th, right? So 45-day learning curve for us. They had 100 million users by the end of January. I learned about Opus.pro. I don't know if Blake's still in here. Blake told me about Opus.pro this morning. The ability to create one video and turn that into, 10 TikTok posts, right? If that's a platform that you're using, it's ridiculous. I mean, so if you stay on top of the tools that are coming out right now, I mean, our business that we used to run with a team of 13 people, we're doing more business with 6 people right now. I mean, it's just become that much more efficient in the creation. You still need the time block. I mean, you still have to do it, right? The tools are just making sure that your time block is, a fifth the size it was a year ago. And so just stay on top of AI tools. It's ridiculous.
So you would say research tools to help you and be as consistent as possible.
Yeah. And so the tools are there to make it much more efficient for your creation process.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
GPT writes some of my blog posts, and I go change like 20% of it.
Yeah.
For some of the filler stuff that's not like epic content. Like
it's
amazing how easy it can be for some of these.
We used to do all the social media content for our clients, and it was all social media posts, which has a very limited shelf life, right? I mean, it's if on LinkedIn, if you're getting 72 hours of exposure for that post, we shifted that immediately in January to where it's not just social posts now. So we're creating articles, right? Education economy, right? We're helping advisors educate their audience through thought leader articles. Once GPT writes that article, and we go in and change 20, 30, 40%, whatever it is, to give a human flair, give it some feeling. You can ask GPT to write 6 social media posts based on that article, right? So now you've got, you still got to put the media to it. But, if you're going to, like I was talking about Judd is the guy's name outside of Detroit, by the way, it came to me. So Judd's doing his presentation on the 20th. Presentation was built on Beautiful.ai. Right? You don't have to go build a PowerPoint slide deck anymore. Go to Beautiful. They'll build it for you. Not all costs money, but it cuts your time, by dramatically.
So to Dave, before, and then we got David Dodge, and we got Dave, but when it comes to on the sales side, right? You see these things working, and you see the influencer lead come in. You see a raw lead come in, maybe from a Google search or something like that, and you see different leads coming in from different places. What marketing materials from what kind of sources have the highest conversion and maybe the greatest margin or the greatest opportunity? So we're out there going, what should we create that turns into $1? You're collecting the dollars. What of these things have you seen work the best? And then we'll go to David Dodge.
Recently, I think it's been some of our social influencers with the professional athletes we did with Travis Kelce and some of those where they did some truck build giveaways for some people in different communities who have done some really good work, in their communities. They're basically heroes in their communities. We partnered with these, very successful professional athletes, Travis Kelce, Dak Prescott, George Kittle, and they each selected these individuals from different communities around the country and did these really cool, amazing, one-of-a-kind truck builds and did, these big giveaways that we did a whole, big video content around and hyped up, and it just got tremendous views and engagements around those. So as far as like turning that into sales, I guess that's hard for me to necessarily quantify from my sales team's perspective, because we're just taking the calls and the orders and don't necessarily quantify that as far as where exactly they came in from. But we know that got the largest response that we've had from the paid or the influencers that we've done ever. And so that was extremely successful. That's been probably one of the more recent, really successful campaigns.
With one of those campaigns, like what did that look like, right? So what were some of the names?
Travis Kelce, Dak Prescott, George Kittle.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. So with one of them, what did that look like? Did they, show off that, driving their truck through the woods and jumping, dirt hills or something? What did that actually look like that converted? And then they go, hey, real truck.
Yeah, no, they were involved in building a truck. Like they selected the hero from a particular community, and then they knew what their interests were, if it was hunting, fishing, just tailgating, etc. And then they partnered with us to build a special one-of-a-kind truck for that individual. And so then we did the custom build for that individual, and then they were involved in giving that truck to the individual so that they could then use that truck to have a one-in-a-lifetime experience with that truck, and it's their truck.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, pretty cool. David Dodge, be loud.
I wanted to kind of piggyback off his concern, and that's a hard question to answer about, hey, what do I do? But there's, I guess we as business owners, we need to kind of gut check ourselves. And if it's not a priority to us, then we got to outsource it. But what I've learned was there's certain things that we do that we think we don't have time for, but that's because we're doing it wrong. And if we do something on, let's say, social media, you post something awesome and you get no traction, it doesn't mean you did it wrong even. But you see that you got no results. So you're saying, I don't have time for this. I don't have time to do things that don't produce results. So when you find something that produces results, all of a sudden you have time for it. And if you dive into learning social media on how to do it properly for the proper platform, when you start seeing results, it's remarkable how much time you'll actually find. So if you're not going to put the heart into it, delegate it to someone else.
Yeah, great feedback. What you got, Scott?
Yeah, I just wanted to share. So one of my company's focuses is just basically online 100%. The other one is like a brick and mortar. I'm going to come to your house and fix something up. And marketing, it really depends on your business too. So Austin Historical, I do very little on social media with it because as I tried, it really doesn't drive sales. Nobody says, I saw that beautiful door you did on Instagram and I want to hire you guys. But for us, it was yard signs. It was something as simple as that. We put out yard signs when we were working on the house, but a few years ago on our 10th anniversary, we called all our clients who had ever worked with us over 10 years. And we said, thank you so much for choosing to restore and not replace your windows. We want to put a yard sign out to show that Orlando restores instead of replaces. And this is like, you're our hero kind of thing. And we put out like 250 yard signs, and we got calls from 1 million people like, who are you? What do you do? What's going on? I don't understand what's happening. Wow. And it was the best marketing that we did. Then all we had to do were buy yard signs, and people respond to, in that business, analog stuff. So don't just think, I know it's 2023 and we're all like, social media is going to save my business. It's going to drive all the business. It depends on your business and it depends on your location, because we just work on old houses in old neighborhoods. So, a TV ad does nothing for me. Sometimes a social media post does nothing. And it was like looking at it and going, I'm only going to put my time where the ROI is. And if there's no ROI for me, it's not on LinkedIn. So I don't spend time on LinkedIn. I had to find like, where are people going to actually find me and reach out? So don't think you have to be on every platform, like killing it on TikTok. If your avatar, the person you're selling to, is not on TikTok, don't go there. Don't spend the time. Spend it where the money is coming in for the sales or the response.
Cool. Charlie?
Something that both of you just hit on, right, is there's emotion involved in marketing, right? Getting an article out of ChatGPT and posting it to your website is not going to do a whole lot if it doesn't have some kind of emotion or human tie to it. Dave, awesome that you got high profile athletes. I think that your campaign probably would have done half as well if it wasn't the human interest side of it, right? I mean, the project trucks that are supporting a hero, whoever those heroes might be. Scott, your yard signs and the thank you for restoring, and that taps an emotion in somebody, right? Rather than putting in a new vinyl window, you guys are restoring, something that's 100 years old. I think that's a really important point here. It's not just the platform, the message and the emotion behind that message and how it touches people is where the effectiveness comes from. It's not just Travis Kelce. It's, the firefighter that, whatever, put out the fire that saved the people who love to fish, right? Yeah. So I think that's a big point to be made too, whether it's something as no insult to Primerica and CFP, but listen, sometimes financial services can be really kind of bland unless you tell a story about somebody who, helped their mother with, whatever it is based on the estate planning that was done prior to blah, 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 right? So it's about those stories and that human touch that really drives marketing.
Yeah, for sure. Mr. Marshall.
This is probably for Scott. You mentioned about consistency. So this is a little bit personal question. How consistent do I have to be with like my podcast publishing and the TikTok videos that I put out? Maybe like 3 hours difference. Is something like that going to change? No, just like.
Every social media platforms, their algorithms are all different in how they respond to stuff. So in social media, right, it's that short 24 to 72 hour platform of time of when somebody's going to see it, and then it just fades into oblivion and it doesn't matter. The podcast is a little different because I like blog posts too, like good evergreen content. People are going to search if they can find it, whether they're searching on wherever they're doing their podcast, one of the 500 places you can listen to a podcast. You can search for that in long tail keywords. You can find that topic. So I think the podcast, when you start to get listeners, they're wanting, like, they're going to listen to it if you're like, hey, every Friday there's a new episode. But, there's some stuff I watch on YouTube. I watch a podcast on YouTube and I'm like, it's every day. And the days when they're not, because they're on vacation, I'm like, that's my morning drive that I listen to. You're like, I'll go find something else. And if I go find something else better because you weren't there, then maybe I don't come back. So, and there've been a few that I followed and I look at it, I was like, I just have to look at it and go, there are other people who are not just like me, but most of the world's gonna be that same way and be like, we get in our routines. If I know every Friday I listen to your podcast and then for a couple Fridays it's not there, I'm going to go find somebody who is consistent, and I'll come back occasionally, but if I can't build my routine around your content, it's kind of tough to be there all the time.
So like when I'm posting a TikTok video at 7 a.m., if I choose to post it at like 6 o'clock one morning and then 8 o'clock the next morning, like,
I think that kind of stuff is fine because the algorithm's constantly changing. So as long as you're there and on the platform once a day or once every couple of days consistently, TikTok knows, hey, he posts every couple days. They'll know what to do with your content, who to serve it up to. But play with the times because you may be like, I get double the reach if I post at night because I'm posting in the evening and most of my followers, strangely, are on the West Coast and I didn't know that. And I'm posting when it's 4 a.m. so they're not seeing it. So kind of play back and forth and see what works. It's you have to do a little split testing.
All right, now let's have some. I want to tap into the genius brains up here, sales and marketing, right? So in the audience, I know a lot of the businesses that are here. So I'm going to we're going to optimize some of the businesses here in the room, leveraging the expert panel's brain, right? So in this room, we had a presentation this morning, Funky Unicorn. Like what ideas, and Dave, why don't you tell us quick about Funky Unicorn, about the electrolyte things that help horses? Can you tell us in maybe a minute?
So these are electrolyte sugar cubes that you can give to your horse like a treat. They're not to replace like a normal electrolyte. They're in addition to, so you can use them in situations where your horse stops drinking. So if you're like a horse show, changes of weather, anything that'll interrupt their drink cycle, you give them a couple of our cubes, and really it's just to help them want to drink more. And then this can help prevent your horse from colicking. It can help enhance performances at shows, things like that, just because they're hydrating and it keeps them basically healthy and fit. So that's the main purpose of our treat.
Okay, Charlie, did it work? Charlie had one.
It's very effective.
Okay. All right. So now let's tap into your brains. Like, all right, we're creating this. We're about to do a campaign for them. What ideas do we have, or some suggestions from marketing, from influencers, maybe even from sales? Maybe being able to process online orders. What's maybe one piece of advice or idea that you might have for a Funky Unicorn?
I'll let Scott answer the influencer side of it. The education piece of it, like where we would come in and help in a situation like this, would be, you guys have a large following, whether it's the retail network is following you, whether it's the riders that are following you. I'd be educating on what your product does and why the electric lights are so important for horses. Now, maybe that's common knowledge in the industry. I don't know your industry or electrolytes well enough to really speak to it, but I'd be trying to educate, and through that education, you're going to grow trust in your buyers.
Scott, I'm putting you guys on the spot, so I hope
it's
you
all
don't
good.
mind.
It's fun. Well, I was already thinking about it when they were doing the million cups this morning. I was like, oh, that would be cool to do this. It's something you're going to eat, and so, or your horse is going to eat, or Charlie's going to eat, and so it's a little bit more of a trust issue, right? Like if I buy a product and it doesn't work, I'll return it. If I eat it or I give it to my horse and they get sick or die, I got to be really careful. So getting it in front of people, having influencers in whoever your market is, like the best people, the best riders, showers, like everybody who like, oh, I know this person, I trust them implicitly if they're like, I use these things on my horse. So that's that's any professional that has a good reputation that likes your product to be like, we want to provide these to you for free. We want you to be out there talking about our product, because then everybody else who looks up to them be like, what kind of tack are they using? What do they use? What's this? They're like, oh, and they use these. That's what I got to do. That's all of us who are like in the DIY industry is like, what tool to use? Oh, use DeWalt. Okay. I'm getting started. I'm going to use DeWalt. I'm going to buy the DeWalt this and this, because the influencers who are ahead of us, who are doing better, that's who we're following. So for yours, it would be like, as much as I could get that product into their hands and have them talk about it, create content around them, or do it themselves, wherever they want to do it, show that they're doing it. You're sponsoring them for this. You sponsor a show, you'd be like, well, okay, it's just advertising. But if somebody who's famous is using it, that's going to move your product a lot, because everybody wants to be like them.
All right, Dave, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, good stuff. Sounds like a great idea. I would say too, some of the stuff that's been mentioned, make sure as you do bring clients on board that you do get some reputable clients that you can get behind, as far as having them support it and put some good reviews behind it, because that would carry a lot of weight, I think. And then as far as your team that you have that supports it as well, make sure you've got some well thought out and defined strategy as far as how they're representing it and how they're speaking to the product, like you just did, as far as why it's good, what are the benefits, what is it addressing. So they are very crisp and clear on how they can, convey that to your potential new clients. And sounds like a good product.
Awesome. So, would you mind talking about your business a little bit? Yeah. So as I've been evolving the EIR Academy, what I really want to do is, as people come in this room, like I want our businesses, when you leave these doors, for you guys to have ideas that you could start implementing, for you to have people that you could start connecting with. Like my friends in my network are your friends in your network. So like I want us to, as we're coming in here, we're solving the problems that we have in the room, and we're leaving with better businesses because of this community. So tell us a little bit about your business, and then we'll turn it over to these guys to see if we can come up with some ideas for you.
Now I'm looking forward to it. Hey guys, I'm Fee Slasher. I run a business where I work for companies that are looking to reduce their costs. So they're getting robbed. They've got all the extra fees that are coming at them. Rates go up for everything all the time. You guys know this. My job is to come in and assess everything. So we do payment processing. We do cost renegotiation. We have a bulk purchaser that we're relationship with. We have a legal thing that we've got with the credit card companies. So I'm constantly looking for ways to basically increase people's profit margins, but reaching businesses and building that trust, because it is a financial thing, can be very, very challenging, obviously. And I'm just very interested to hear what you guys would say as far as how to improve that reach.
All right. So yeah, absolutely. So let's start with you, Dave, and then we'll kind of work our way back.
Sure. For starters, I'd say what an awesome business, helping other businesses save money and optimizing their business. Ideas that are coming to mind are making sure you've got like good like use cases where you can show where you've had really good success with some other clients. Optimizing technology is really ways that we've been very successful in our own business in terms of, improving efficiencies and helping improve productivity and add to the bottom line. So if there's, some technology in particular that you partner with particular vendors or technologies that you've had a lot of success with, maybe if there's some ways that you can, partner with those vendors or whatever to engage them to help leverage that somehow. Because again, technology right now, AI is obviously the elephant in the room that you just add their name to your business and your stock will go up. But it's not just AI, CRM systems, whatever it is, there's just so many ways to take advantage of that. But yeah, for you, I think it's building the compelling case to your potential clients as to why you're successful and why they should go with you. So I'd say have some really, well-defined kind of use cases where you've already done that would be a good starting point.
I'd say if you don't have a ticker on your website that's showing how much money you've saved businesses, you're missing out. So if it's like, if you've been around for several years and like $10 million saved to 32 businesses, like, holy cow, okay, I need to get in with this. But Josh is going to laugh because I do this on a lot of things. It's like, so you're an expert in this, which everybody, if I can pay you money to make more money, then easy, right? It's like, of course, I give you $10, you give me $15. Let's do that all day long. And so, but sometimes people, I don't know if your fee is up front or a percentage of what you save, but either way, if you're like, some people are cheap and we want to do it ourselves and they're stupid and I do that all the time too. So, but it's like, what if you had that information, you went, I'm going to have a course because you don't want to work with me and I'm not scalable. My time, I can't take care of everybody, but I'm going to put together a course with me as the expert. And I've got all these video courses and lessons I'm going to sell for whatever the price is worth it. And now you're serving hundreds or thousands of people that you don't even have to talk to. And you can work with these certain clients and you can tailor your services for the custom side. But if you want to just learn to do it yourself, what I do, here's a course or here's a book on it. Here's a white paper on it. Here's free content on how to do this stuff. There's so much opportunity and value that you could provide out there that's evergreen content that they'll come back to you on YouTube or on blogs or things like that over the years to go, let me learn. I learned about it. And if you want, and then there's a link to your company where you can get my services and it's part of it's easy for them to convert from those because you just gave them a bunch of free, valuable content. I tried it. It worked. Now I'm going to come to you to do the rest of this. Once they get a taste for saving the money, now they're like, I'll hire you to just tear into my business and really go to town. But it gives them a little risk-free way to try out one or two of your ideas or things you're doing. And then they're more confident to jump in and work with you as a company rather than just trying it out.
Yeah. So Charlie, before you go, the reason I saw your presentation, I know a little bit about you. The reason you're doing this and some of your background and your story and missions and such like that is one of the drivers for why you're doing that. And I know Charlie, the way he thinks, he has one of the biggest hearts of anybody I've ever met in my life. Why don't you tell him before he gives you his idea? Why don't you tell him a little bit about your why of why you're doing this and some of the things that are important to you in the world of missions?
Absolutely. So I have two major whys, one that's local and one that's international. So local is when COVID hit, I saw half my town shut down and all my favorite businesses either never reopened or they reopened and they shut down and they stayed shut down. So that was a big one for me. Started talking to people that I love, seeing like how they're struggling and hearing, oh, well, COVID happened and then all of our rates just got jacked. So being able to find answers for that and do the problem solving where people were feeling overwhelmed was the local one. As far as the global one, I've worked for 20 years off and on in East Africa, and we have seen so much charity go in, like billions of dollars, and it's going down this black hole. So we've been finding leverage points and doing basically what I'm doing here in Rwanda and Uganda and building investment into businesses, finding ways to do the cost reduction for them that allows them to then grow their business by like 80% in a year. So being able to do that is we're starting to see fundamental changes in the economic structure of the areas we're working in, and I want to be able to bring that here as well. And as I do, the cost reduction for businesses, a percentage of everything I save goes to that. So it's allowing me to kind of tie both in.
Thank you.
Hold
First.
up, Charlie.
Awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. I knew that would light your world on fire. How do you connect those two, man? Tap in your brain, and how do you connect those two? And we could even go backwards if you guys have other ideas, but I wanted to hold that off for you specifically.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, so I think both you guys. I mean, it's great to be with smart people. It's awesome. Thank you. So the telling the story, right? Your why, which is an incredible story that's going to gather a lot of attention. The case studies Dave talked about, right? I think that part of the struggle for businesses is who do you tell that story to, right? If you want to work with business owners locally, how do great stories, but how do we get that in front of the right people so that we can turn them into clients of yours and you can make an impact on their lives? And I'm going to sound like a broken record for a second because it's the life I live every single day. But I mean, you can connect with 25 people on LinkedIn every day, right? Put them in your CRM when you're developing your stories. A case study. So we use it's actually a Gainesville company that were recently acquired by Constant Contact. A CRM system called SharpSpring. And one of the reasons that we chose that, you can white label it, you can resell it, so it fits in line with our business. But if you load all your media, your case study, for example, right? If you load all your media, your TikTok video, your why story, you can put a tracking code on all that media. So everybody that's in that SharpSpring system, the first thing you've got to do is once they get in the system, you got to give them to your website. So that system can track their IP, right? So now, once that IP address is trackable, if they consume your case study, they get 5 points. If they hit your website, they get 5 more points. They come back to your website, they get 10 more points. They watch your TikTok video, they get 12 points. So they fill out this form, they get 25 points. You got 10,000 people in a CRM. The system is built to tell you, who remembers a cloud score? Do you guys remember like 15 years ago, you'd have a cloud score as an influencer or whatever? Maybe it was 10 years ago. I don't know. Time goes too fast now. It's almost like a cloud score for your prospects. So that if you've got 10,000 people you're talking to or 500 people you're talking to, the system's designed to tell you who's ready for your phone call, right? It's just on your website. Oh, really? What a coincidence, right? So you can get triggers when someone, looks at the fees page of your website or downloads that case study or whatever they do. So the messaging is awesome. I love your why. I love the suggestions, the case studies and such. For a lot of people, it's struggling in building that audience to get that message in front of. And I'd turn to LinkedIn. Business owners, who you want to talk to? I'd probably get on LinkedIn. I'd send out 25 invites a day and add 6 or 7 new people to your network, move them over into your CRM so that you can track the interaction that they're having with those messages that you're building.
And how would you start that conversation?
How would you start that conversation? Because I always find it a little awkward to do like the cold conversations. I am typically more relationship based and less like sales based, obviously.
Yeah.
But the starting that conversation tends to be where I struggle the most. I think.
Draw off commonality. So one easy way to find commonality is are you familiar with LinkedIn pretty well? I mean, so your connections are first tier connections. Everybody that those people are connected to are your second tier connections. When you build that network, build with second tier connections so you can say, hey, it looks like we've got some common connections, right? So that creates the commonality. The platforms become like really spammy, frankly. Set yourself aside from that. Understand that we talked about the lead scoring in SharpSpring, right? We talked about hosting webinar events. These things are in place so you don't have to sell, right? You know that you're going to be hosting this event in 3 months. And on LinkedIn or via email on LinkedIn, you can send out, if your network's big enough, you can send out 1,000 invites a week to your event. And 30 people are to the workshop. I think Scott, your suggestion of workshop is awesome, right? Give some free value there. The reality is, even if you give away the information, very few people are actually going to implement on it. They see the value in what you're doing, and then they kick the can down the road for a month, And then they come back and they say, you know what, I can't do this. And so it's hard, right? It's hard work, right? So they're going to come back to you anyway. You don't have to sell in your messaging when you've got mechanisms to measure your network, whether it's a lead score, or you're doing events like workshops or webinars or whatever it is you're doing. Those people are self-identifying as prospects of yours. They connect with you on LinkedIn. They are not a prospect. Do not sell to them, right? Because it's a really easy way to turn them off. Just be cool. Give them valuable information. Tell them your why. Let them get to know you. Educate them. And then do something at the end of that chain that lets them self-identify as a prospect.
As he was talking with LinkedIn, one thing that I was thinking about too is like you're saying, how do I connect with those people? We all love talking about our businesses. Like, right? It's much easier if somebody asks you about your business. You're like, oh, tell me all about what I do. People are happy to share. So if you can do things where, whether you're doing a webinar or some opportunity there to have these people like, hey, I really respect you. I love what your business is doing. I'd love to do an interview or like talk to you. Josh does a great job of this with podcasts. Where he's like, I'm going to interview and I get to know your business, and they get to get their business out there in front of your audience. And now you're connected, and they're going to ask you through that. If you're more in depth on it, it's maybe just a simple message on LinkedIn or wherever, to be like, I'd love to learn more about it. I'd love to do a podcast or whatever, or do an interview with you for a blog post and talk about your business. Now there's a reason for you guys to have a repartee and talk to each other. And they're probably going to ask you a little bit about what you do. Why do you do these webinars? What do you do? Oh, I help businesses save money. And people only pay me if I save them money. Okay, could we look at what that looks like? It's like suddenly I'm interviewing you for your business, but now I've done not a salesy thing, but I've had an opportunity now to talk to you about my business. Because people are polite and they're going to ask about your business too. But once you tell them what you do, it's a real easy hook for a business owner to be like, you can save me money. Mm-hmm. Let's talk more about that. So, yeah.
Oh, we got a question in the back.
So I've had a fairly good experience with an organization called Alignable. Are you familiar with Alignable?
Yes.
It's similar to LinkedIn, but it's all businesses and entrepreneurs.
Yeah. I don't know enough about it to really. I've been on Alignable. It's probably been a couple of years since I've really, I think I still get emails that say, "Hey, you've got these notifications on Alignable that I probably delete." Just time in a day, or yeah, it'd be difficult for me to speak to it just because it's been. I really don't know it well. So.
If I may, I recommend anyone.
Yeah.
Check out alignable.net.
Okay, we've got a platform recommendation from audience. Alignable is a referral network, so you can sign up for it, and it's free. All right, so we've got about 15 minutes left in the EIR Academy today. What other questions do you have, or is there another business that you would like us to take a look at before we go into a little bit of one-on-one time, networking time? Paul, Solar Trainer Paul. Tell us about your business.
So I got the name Solar Trainer Paul to be different, to stand out and be loud from some of David Dodge's training through Grant Cardone. So I'm trying to figure how I'm trying to be different, but yet I'm in an industry where unfortunately there's a lot of hawkers. They're door knockers and a lot of pressure and a lot of bad false information. I'm the only solar company full time that's a member of the CEP, the Chamber, the partnership here. So that gives me the honesty and credibility I know, and transparency. But how do I get past some of that when I'm doing any social media marketing and other things? I do some videos through the trainings I've learned from there.
And are you doing primarily residential or commercial?
This is private residential. I can do commercial, but this is.
And then local to Ocala, Marion County, is that your main market?
No, our company's in 21 states and Puerto Rico.
Okay, but you specifically, are you focused on Marion County?
I'm trying to do that more now, yeah.
Okay, so what advice do you have for Solar Trainer Paul to help him through sales and marketing to increase his business?
Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but people convert to solar for two reasons. So they can stop paying FPL, right, and then own their own utility. And there's pretty much an offset with the power bill versus the cost of financing solar. Is that pretty accurate, right? I would expect there's a going green aspect to it as well. I mean, I don't know solar well, right? But I would, why else do people convert to solar? Are there other?
Those are the three main reasons.
Okay.
Money out of pocket to get started, lower your expenses from the very first month you go live through the program I use.
Yeah.
And then also, going green reduces carbon footprint.
And so the question is really, how do I stand out in this solar world? There's a lot out there, right? I mean, I get ads every day. I think on my Facebook feed or
And
wherever.
that's part of the thing. They've bombarded people with it.
I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think case studies sell. I really do. I think that I believe trust is a huge factor. And I think it is with any, you're not selling a widget, right? I don't know what solar costs necessarily, but I imagine it's a hefty tens of thousands of dollar investment for a homeowner.
Over the long haul, but then so is your paying your electric
So is
bill
your
for that same
FPL.
period of time.
Yeah, I think the cost savings probably. I think going back to what Dave said earlier, a case study based on this person in your neighborhood, relating it to somebody.
So I have a client up in Pennsylvania that is live now through our company, and their bill
went down so much. They have like an over $200 credit already, that the electric company put them on a longer billing cycle now, like a 2-month billing cycle.
Yeah, wow. Like, and listen, borrowing from what Scott said too, with the yard signs, right? I mean, when it's being installed, and I think we got hit by the hurricanes last year, and I very much enjoyed our the guy who was the rep for the roofing company that we used to do that work. And I think his sign is still in our front yard. That's been 3 months. It's sun faded at this point. I don't know. At some point you won't be able to read it anymore. But I think that kind of local boots on the ground marketing like that stuff works too.
Yeah. I was actually going to mention like the yard signs for that's the analog version of social proof, right? On social media, it's likes and shares, but in the real world, it's all of the neighbors on my street are all using this guy. Why is it not the other solar company? But I think you've got to, it's getting commoditized, solar, because it's like, for me, I'd be like, yeah, I want solar. It's just who's going to make it. To me, if I want solar, it's who's going to make it easiest and who's going to be the least out of pocket. Or if there's something special that you're doing that others are not, I need to know that. Because I would be interested in putting solar on my house, but then I go, well, I don't know who to call. Like, I'll just Google solar installers Orlando. And so and then there's a list of like 50 people, and I'm looking at Google reviews because that's the easiest way. So if you don't have any Google reviews, I don't know if I can trust you. I don't know if you're new, maybe you're brand new and you're just, you're going to disappear the minute there's a problem. So lots of Google reviews makes it real easy. That's the social proof of I can trust you. You stand out above the others. And that social proof as much as you can to get your customers to talk to their neighbors. So I don't know if you guys have discount things of like, if you refer me, you get this or something. But Nextdoor is a great place for like that trust. People like, who's a plumber you can trust? I'm so tired. I've had 3 people over here and they screwed it up. You just ask your neighbors, and if 2 people on there say the same person, okay, done. But advertising on those doesn't really work. You just need to get people out there with social proof. So it's like, how do you get them to sell you to their neighbors?
Yeah, good question. I mean, how would you differentiate yourself from your competition? We deal with this all the time in our industry as well. In fact, sometimes we're dealing with customers who are getting competitive quotes from some of our competitors that are selling our product, and they're offering them such ridiculous prices that we won't even match it. We're like, no, I mean, I'm sorry, that doesn't make sense. And so we'll have to, lose a sale just because it doesn't make sense for us to compete with them. But there are some shady people out there that will, do some things to get a sale that we're just not willing to do. So I think you stand your ground, have your integrity. I think some good feedback as far as, let your reviews stand for yourself. If you don't do like customer satisfaction surveys, that's an important part of us. extremely customer first, customer focused. We, and NPS scores and customer satisfaction surveys are an integral part of how we make sure we're taking care of the customer. And if not, we're quickly adjusting and focusing on what we need to do. But I don't worry too much about the tactics that some of the unethical competition is doing, because we stand behind what we do and let that reputation, stand for itself. Let your referrals, your reviews, leverage that to get repeat business. And I think especially in Ocala and Marion County, if you do a good job with that, the business should follow.
All right. So one final question for you guys. Name a resource, a recent resource, book, podcast, YouTube channel, something that you found helpful, that was meaningful to you. It could be about business, personal, doesn't matter. Something that you found meaningful that you want to share. Let's start with you, Dave. I'm definitely putting you on the spot.
Well, I guess in our case, something that we've been focused on with our entire leadership team is we're rolling out leadership training for all of our sales team and actually the service team as well. So John Maxwell is a big leadership guru. So we have been rolling out leadership training for his 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. And I think that's been really good for our entire leadership team to be engaged on those practices and how they can implement it to make our entire employees, more effective at their jobs.
What about you, Scott?
Charlie Tremendous Jones said, you'll be the same person in 10 years, except for the books you read and the people you meet. So I read a ton, thanks to Audible, because I have 3 kids, so it's hard to sit down with a book. But 2 books that have been kind of game changers for me were Friction, which is all about like, how do you remove how do you make sales or everything with your business go smoother? Where can you remove friction in the buying process, in the production process, all that stuff? And another one was Indistractable, which 2 of my favorite reads over the last couple of years.
Thank you.
Indistractable, and it's basically about how we're giving up the quality of our work because we're just so distracted with, I got another message on this, or I got this, like learning to turn off some of those notifications or work in an environment where you can actually do that deep work and really dive in and work on your company instead of like doing a little bit, answering an email, like trying to multitask. We don't multitask. We think we do, but we don't. We're just bouncing from one to the next.
Cool. Thank you. Charlie?
I love a book called Influence. Anybody read Influence? Robert Cialdini. He's a psychologist, I think ASU, Arizona State. It is essentially the psychological study of why people purchase. And as you know, we've all got something to sell. And it's just really, as opposed to the sales tactics, it's understanding what's going on in the purchaser's mind as they're, working through, potentially working with you. So Influence.
Awesome. Guys, let's give a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you guys so much for coming. We're going to have about 10, 15 minutes of time. I want you guys to connect with them. If they need to take a potty break, let them do so. But I want you to connect with them, not in the bathroom, but just get to know them for a little bit. And then I've got to take them and steal them at around 12:30. So have some fun, connect with them. Thank you guys for coming today.